Now time for the FORK Preload Adjusters. Oh, this has about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5.5 steps of adjustment. So you crank it down, this lower end starts pushing the spring and just kind of stiffens up the spring. And that's all there is to it. It's a very simple, straightforward component, nothing more to it. I've made a dedicated video on this. Go watch that for a better understanding. Now how do you go about fixing this on the motorcycle? To begin with, take an Allen key and kind of tighten this up to a point where the last Allen key bolt sits tight, nice and tight and flush. See to it that this doesn't move. If you could use a bit of a blue Loctite on this, good for you. Now all you need to do is, here is a size 22 ring spanner, and that goes in onto the cap of the forks like that. But before that, you should be loosening your Allen key bolts. Before you open this fellow up, the cap up, just loosen these bolts a bit so that the tension is released and you don't end up cracking the cap. Okay, so an Allen key and my breaker bar. Yep. Open. Pull this out. Loosen both the Allen key bolts. Let me finish this, guys, and then get back to you. So once you've released both the Allen key bolts on both of these fellas, all you need to do is just put this in place and open the cap up. Be careful when you open the cap, is because the spring has a tension on it and it'll just pop the cap out even before you know it. So let's just open this up with a lot of pay attention to the last thread. When it's about to unwind, put some pressure on top and then open it up. So yep, the cap has popped and there you go, that's how it looks. So you pull this fellow out and you have a cap on top, and then the rest of it is just an empty barrel. I mean, this is a spacer, this fellow is a spacer, and this fellow is like a spacer, again a washer cum spacer. I don't really know what to call this, a plate, a metal plate that also acts like a spacer. So now we are going to be pushing in this fella. So you're taking away the cap and this spacer and just going to be inserting this. Yeah, perfect. So if you guys can see, this is how it lines up. It lines up like that. Yep, I kind of forgot how it went in. And so you first remove your cap and then followed by the spacer. You don't really need these two fellas. This is going to go in. The only thing that you need to keep in mind is just apply a bit of oil onto all the threads and the O-ring before you shove this in. Okay, so that's the fork oil that I have used on my motorcycle, and this is also the same oil that's going to go into my friend's motorcycle as well. And what you need to do now is just use a gentle film of this on the preload adjuster, both the threads and the O-ring, and then shove this in. Just a bit like that. And then now you know that you're good to go. Definitely not going to be stripping the threads or anything, or for that matter the O-ring will also slide in place. It'll find its right spot you will not kind of in any way damage it. So this is good to go now. This is by far the most difficult bit to get. The preload adjuster to grab. .32mm spanner to kind of crank this and get it to seat or sit. Okay, so towards the fag end of this, you will come to a point where this will sit tight. There will not be any room for you to crank the nut anymore, and that is where you just give it a quarter of a turn, not even a quarter, and you know you're good to go. That's about it. Now take a look at it. So now that this is in place, all you need to do is just tighten this fella to kind of increase the tension on the spring, and loosen this fellow to decrease the tension on the spring. As simple as that. A simple device, a fork preload adjuster, and comes in handy if you are an aggressive, attacking off-road rider, or you're learning to be one. Well, that's the whole of it. I'm just going to be repeating this very same process onto this side, and once this is done, I'm going to be tightening the Allen key bolts, getting them to place. How much is how good on these Allen key bolts is experience. So once you have done hand tight, just give it another half a turn on your own, and then maybe take it to a mechanic and he will know how much is how good. So that's about it. Or refer to your owner's manual or service manual to understand the torque settings, get a torque wrench and get it done. I have torque wrenches with me. It's just that I don't use them is because of years of working on motorbikes and just know how much is how good. Yep, so I'll just do the other side and we'll call it quits. If you like this one, if this helped, it helped. Go get yourself a fork preload adjuster and shove it in if you really want to do aggressive off-road riding and stunts. So well, that's for this one. The next one is right around the corner, another mod on Arun's motorcycle, and I shall see you guys very soon. Until then, this is Ben signing out for now. Ciao.